Today was a week of culminative story points for the Toei regulars that I recap. With Jyuohger, it was more getting into Azald and his inconsistencies as he tries to get back the cubes that Bud had stolen from him that the Jyuohger were going to be looking over thanks to Larry. And Larry gets it, of course, to them to compare it against Misao's body, the equipment Misao was given, and they pretty much confirmed that his, well, it's pretty much what we already knew, really, with how that all came together, and by culminative, I meant that it makes sense in hindsight that all of these story points, seeming like minor things in the past, work together for a more cohesive whole, and this definitely explains a lot about Azald and Misao's cubes, not so much how Genis got the Zoomens he powered Misao with, but any guess there, he did go searching for him a while back. Where was I going with this? And why, when Azald was previously deconstructed, in part by Bud, that he would draw the cube animals back together. He's infested with the same power. Hell, with how Genis picked him up out of nowhere and then made him a player of the Blood game, it's entirely possible that's what drew him back to Earth. This power Azald was infused with that was keeping him restrained or whatever. We don't know that yet. Azald's going to have a confrontation with Genis in the next episode. What amuses me with this is that his grand resurrection, his recovery of his memories of being this cosmic destroyer entity that Ketas defeated, him being repowered in that form and all that, it's actually the hero's fault in trying to rescue the cube animals that got inserted into his body. So it's like their intent to do well is what resurrected in full this actual enemy. Though, to be honest, I kind of blame Bud for doing that, because in trying to help the others against Azald, he used the whale change gun to shoot Azald, and it only froze him in place for a few seconds, and then, that's what triggered his actual memories. So, it's like, you're trying to be helpful, but then you're just, that's what we call in the business a oops. Second major point is that's going to be followed up on next week as this storyline continues, is more about Yamato and why he doesn't get along with his father, and pretty much because he's an absentee parent. I've discussed this other places. This is actually pretty common in Japan, but it's like, even when he was around, he intentionally did not would go back to work, only coming back home to get a change of clothes or whatever. Intentionally spent no time with his family, and wasn't even around when his wife died, and his son was left all alone to be the only one who was there in her final hours. So we can definitely get the hate and rage there, and especially with the man's previously showcased disinterest. What I don't like is how Amu is the one that's doing the seemingly compassionate thing, in that saying, her response to saying to all this when she asks about it, and Yamato explains it, is, you never try and understand other people. What has he been doing all season? Literally, what has he been doing all season? It's like, okay, not full-on understanding, trying to understand there, but definitely reaching out and connecting with people. That's the whole thing with the Zoomans even staying with him, living with him. He wants to understand them. yeah, it's not like he's refusing that at all. It's part of the whole connections and bonds thing that has kind of become the Zyoger's saving grace, not saving grace, a element of them that's representative of their greater power. So, what she's saying is his character flaw is something that contradicts with much of what we've seen from Yamato's actions throughout the series. I mean, as we saw with the whole Bangray thing, there are definitely people who don't understand the significance of a bond, and those are the ones doomed to be without them. And Yamato's father definitely, from this context, definitely seems a lot like Bangray in that he abandoned the people closest to them in their time of need. So, yeah, Amu, you screw up. You are not best Jyuohger. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got to comment on for first one. Exide, though. Good, I want to say, but definitely missing a few elements of it fulfilling its potential, because there's not much follow-up with Exide level 20 and the whole split bodies thing. I mean, I literally like the follow-up to the shocked reaction last time, where the battle breaks down because the two emus are infighting. They're like stuck in a cyclical loop of trying to justify each one is the real one. Gamer Genius M in the orange Exide level 20, and Dr. Emu Hojo in blue Exide Gamer level 20. He's the one with the mask on his right shoulder, the other one's the mask on the left shoulder. And, like, it's definitely noticeable, not just in their cadence, but in their use of specific nouns, how they've differentiated from each other. And it's further contrasting how the two sides of himself act between in battle, and not just in battle, in his professional life. You know, there's this scene here where he manipulates Kagami into helping the patient of the week with pancreatic cancer, which is apparently not terminal, but just a very difficult surgery. And you see more of Gamer Genius M not sticking through, what's the phrase I'm looking for? Peeking through in his eyes, where he's more confident and, for lack of a better phrase, playing Kagami to get him to agree with that. And definitely, that shows that, well, one, due to the cadence, that's probably not intended, but that's definitely how it seemed like it was written. But seems to be more of a blurring of the line between them, which might just be a side effect from the massive influx of the Bugster virus into M following the activation of the Mighty Brothers Gashot. But we also get confirmed that Emu is infected with Game Syndrome, whether that's from the Gashot or a pre-existing diagnosis condition, doesn't matter. Taiga's now in on it and continuing Kirya's work in deciphering the mystery of Exide, especially since he has the annoying girl that's obsessed with Emu hanging off of him and teasing at the mystery while actually providing no substantial clues aside from egging him on and fighting him. What's her point in this all again? She's really not adding anything to the story, and you kind of subtracted more interesting characters from everything for them. So I really hope they get to the entire point for being around very soon, otherwise that's going to become tiresome. Yeah, I like this one as has been my problem with the series thus far. It's rushing past a bunch of its story that they could have spent more time on. You know, paced out the Gashot stuff more, and making this a two-part definitely helped decompress it so that even if there are some lackluster elements, like last week when I was chewing out Kagami for being a dick at the exact wrong time, it still feels like they're credited out from other stuff, like Emu actually acknowledging something weird happening with that ga shot and the splitting of himself, which both times he used it, there's no recognition there was even a problem. I don't know, maybe there's something related to the memory clashing that causes him unconsciousness and then just not remembering that. It's weird. It might also be tied to the whole Bugster virus thing, where that when he's in that state, it's more Bugster than him, even though even though it might be taken on his personality. We're not completely certain of that at this point, where they're going with it. Dan is, of course, irritated at the illegal game, since he's obsessed with his Game Master role. Except, if you're the Game Master, you can't exactly be a player. This isn't exactly Dungeons and Dragons. You should have, I don't know, had another player. Well, you manipulated everyone and kept the strongest player yourself in the background instead of being active like this. Hell, you're getting Parad his ga shot in the literal next episode, so does that mean you're backing off for the time being since you're functionally immortal, or what's going on? Speaking of that, Paradox, the Kamen Rider Paradox, or Paradx as they're stylizing it, is debuting next week. It's too early! Yeah, we're at... What episode are we at? Yeah, that was just episode 15. It's 14. That's episode 15 that he's debuting in. But, you know, even for as lackluster as it was, Ghost waited another episode or two before getting on with Necrom. And admittedly, Ghost didn't get that until its mid-20s, so... then you've had 5 writers already. Admittedly, they've all been introduced since the first 4 episodes, so it's not like it's rushing get another one in already, but, you know, so many episodes have been form or writer debut ones, they count as more than the episode count still. Like, 5 writers, then they're cast off leveled up forms, then the armor forms, then all of the dragon armors. Now Genom level 10, Exide level 10, Exide level 20. You have more forms and armors than you have an episode count. You could have waited, until episode 18. You could have waited until episode 19. You could have played with the status quo a bit before getting on with it. I mean, I know this is the problem with Toei right now, and that they're shoving merchandise down everyone's throats, but the issue with them isn't the amount of merchandise. Hell, there were more shift cars introduced by this point. Not just shift cars, signal bikes introduced into this by Drive. You had more lock seeds introduced at this point in Gaim. You had more icons introduced in Ghost than they have had the ga shots, but it's how they introduce them and utilize them in the story that is the problem, and for much of Exide's story thus far, they've taken over the story and subverted telling other parts of it. Kamen Rider did not used to be like this. Kamen Rider wasn't even like this in Wizard. O's, I always say, gets an exception on this because their transformation trinkets were a key part in driving the story with how they were critical parts of the monsters. Not so much here. They're tools. They should not be the end-all be-all to the character stories and the monster of the week, which it seems that almost every one of them has ended up being a form debut episode, where that takes priority over everything else, and you can't build a series out of that. And I really do disagree with the definition of Kamen Rider as being a shovel the merchandise series, because that's not how it started, but it's hard to disagree with that in how that's how Toei has let it devolve to. I don't know, maybe it's because TV Asahi's has taken a bigger role in producing the main show the last few years. I've just learned about this. They've kind of shoved a lot of the Toei producers out because they kept screwing things up. But it's not exact. It doesn't seem like they're doing much better. But yeah, definitely one of the better Excite episodes. Just being aware of the show's problems does. I shouldn't say it brings it down, but it might end up compounding the same error we keep seeing with thus far. 0. Another establishment episode. More of how Alice and Ray are interacting in this world. They went back to the camera thing and Ray's picture, and I'm guessing since he was okay with it at the end of the episode last time, he got chewed out for letting her get away with the picture, or he wanted the picture for himself, so he let her develop it or something, or regardless, the episode pretty much opens with her developing the photo and then Ray taking it back along with the negatives. Alice, however, already knows what Mackay Knight's horrors and all of that is, and that's probably relating to the dragon's egg that she's investigating, which we haven't exactly gotten insights onto why she's looking for it, which was kind of critical exposition to have given by this point, since that's a major plot thread. This is episode 2. You kind of didn't have much else going on in the episode. My camera's battery died. Where was I going with this? So yeah, it seemed like they had the time to at least finish establishing the characters, and they kind of wasted it, which is not good. It's not good because Kaoru in the first Garo series was established by this point, and it's like, it's just bringing us more questions than anything, with why Ray is suddenly being nice to her, being around her, and doing things for no seeming reason. Since she's walked into a horror den twice now, there's no explained reason why she did it the second time. So it's like, you're missing something. You're missing parts of why they're doing all of this to actually justify the reason why they keep meeting like this. Again, with the first Garo series, Kaoru worked at that art gallery, so she had a reason for being there. Then she got infected by the horror blood, and that kept her in range of Koga for all of their following interactions. Here, Alice is a bystander to a horror attack with the horror infesting the hotel she went to, but now we find out that she is actually a local and had no reason to actually go out to that hotel. So it's like, her being a horror magnet is not yet being justified in the narrative, or since she already knows about horrors, is she intentionally seeking them out in hopes that they'll give her some kind of detail on the dragon's egg or social encounter, a kind knight or priest that will actually tell her something about it. But by proxy, because we know nothing about her, not past the whole photography thing, we don't really have a reasoning yet for why she's looking for this item, or why she's going about this means of trying to find it, when she could be, I don't know, looking for occultic book sellers, or, antiques dealers that might have some semblance of idea about it, which would possibly then relates to horror artifacts or horror infected artifacts, which would more lead into her interactions with Zero. I I'm not seeing how they're bridging this connection very well yet. It's only the second episode, but I feel they've done it better before, so there's not exactly much reason for it to not be as effective, especially since the dialogue it's pat and expected. We did get some good dialogue exchanges with Ray in this episode, though. The bartender, whose name I forget, from Zero Black Blood is back. He's got a replacement hand. And they make mention of Yuna and whatever the Makai priest that was training Yuna in wielding her father's sword. The supporting characters from Zero Black Blood essentially have been doing, and they're pretty much just set up shop, and it's a callback. That's pretty much it. Horror of the Week infests a woman who was the second at a dance club, like exotic dance club, and, was jealous of the main dancer's sex appeal, so infected by horror, eats her. Then she has the sex appeal, and I'm beginning to wonder exactly where they have this set, because a lot of the dialogue is in English. It looks like an old English town. I know it's a smaller town in Japan that just has these stylistic elements for the setting, but then it seems like they're actually in a actual Western town within how this episode, one of the patrons of this dance club is giving bouquets full of literal Benjamin Franklin $100 bills. And I know there's currency exchanges, but I don't think that's exactly legal tender in Japan, if you catch my drift. There's a reason where you have to go to currency exchanges in other countries to trade in the money you have for money of the country's make. You can get the gist of what I was trying to say there. So it seems like this isn't exactly a Japanese setting, even though all the characters and actors are Japanese. I mean, with how the series is called Dragon Blood and tied to a dragon, it would kind of make sense if this was actually supposed to be a Western city Ray's found himself in guarding, since the Makai Knights are constantly reassigned to other districts, it seems. So I don't know. It's just an odd setting detail, because I expected him to be paying them in yen. Hell, the name of the theater is Loberia, which is the name of a town in Argentina. I looked that up on the Garo Wiki. So it's why I've got this train of thought in my head, and how they might not actually be in Japan for all this. At least we do have some more story arc seeding at the end, where Yuria Haga's character, Kagome, tries to confront the Makai priest who is trying to unseal the Dragon Knight to awaken this dragon, and Kagome saying that's a ridiculously bad idea. I'm, of course, paraphrasing. Just, that seems like it's not an unnecessary detail, but it feels like an unnecessary scene just to continue seeding the story arc when you didn't fully work on establishing the characters very well this time, aside from elements of their dynamics. So, not a bad episode, just, I didn't get out of it what I think should have been going into it, in layman's terms, I guess. Though speaking of Zero and Garo, I am still grinding away in Final Fantasy XIV in my spare time. I am definitely gotta set up some type of stream thing. The Garo event is currently live on Final Fantasy XIV servers for PvP. There's player versus players, and you gotta earn wolf marks from PvP to get pieces of the Gar armor, which are all level 60 gear, designed for PvP. And then, once you have a full set equipped, you go to the disreputable priest who is actually selling them, and you get a special title. And from playing in PvP with the special title, you get Goten, Ginga, and whatever Barago's mount, whatever Barago's horse was named. I do not remember if his horse was named. I really don't remember that. But you play in enough PvP matches, you get the mount for the whole full Garo experience. Mentioning this because I want to stream that in the future. Not sure when, not sure how, but part of that is even getting up to level 60 to grind for that stuff, because it's expensive to actually get any of the equipment. Someone already tabulated the scores, and it takes 250,000 wolf marks to get all of these sets, and you at max you're going to be getting about 500 per match if you win it, so it's definitely something that would take a while to do if you want to get all the gear. Now, they're supposed to be releasing them in the Gold Saucer, which is Final Fantasy XIV's gambling house, like the Gold Saucer from Final Fantasy VII, which pretty much has the same amenities. But they've not released those yet to the public, and they have not stated how much it's going to cost for those, even though they're likely not going to be as good as the PvP armor and not applicable for getting the mounts or whatever. Or maybe they're just encouraging people to play PvP first to get it before they release the more common stuff. Either way, that's going to be a long grind in a already busy schedule. I'll see about what I can do about that when we get to March. Updates. If you've seen my YouTube page, if you see these videos through my YouTube page, you'll be seeing I finally got videos up and videos releasing. Trying to get something more Toku related up. Those tend to require heavier editing to not get hit by content ID flags. I'm scrounging through my archives to see what will actually pass, because I'm going through footage a lot using my editing program, so I don't exactly have the freedom to go and quickly re-render those right now, but I should finally be getting on a schedule for releasing stuff on YouTube, which I have been wanting to get done for a long time now. It's finally happening. Huzzah. That's pretty much all I have to talk about this week. I'll see you all next time.